Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we'll be doing our first ever edition of Maple Syrup News, where we take a look at some of the biggest stories hitting the gaming world and more specifically those centering around the Nintendo Switch. Now since this is a new series, for the moment I'm aiming at doing this about once or twice a week, but depending on how it's received and how things go, it can go up or it can go down. Now to date, for this first ever edition, we actually have a couple of really big stories to cover, but overall we'll be covering the release of a couple of Switch games. One is a very big franchise, the other one a more niche title, but nonetheless one I think that a lot of people are going to be putting on their calendar. Next, we'll be talking about NFTs because a lot has developed over the last few days. Some news is more on the positive side and another part of it is definitely more on the negative. And lastly, we'll be ending today with an acquisition, and it's probably one of the biggest acquisitions of the last few years, and in my opinion, will definitely rock the gaming world. Now, as we're going through the stories, just to let you know, all the source articles will be linked down below, so if you want to check them out for yourself, those will be available. Now with all that stuff out of the way, let's jump into our news. However, do remember that if you do like the content, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel if you aren't already. Now to start out today's video, we're going to be talking about the Kingdom Hearts series that has finally got a solid release date on the Nintendo Switch, which is February 10th of 2022. Now just a quick reminder that these will be cloud versions of the game, meaning that you need to be constantly connected to the internet, and depending on the quality of your internet connection and also the server you're connected to, your mileage will vary with your experiences. Now, not only did we receive a release date, but we also received pricing on the different packages that will be offered. And I've gotta tell you, they're coming out way more expensive than I would have thought. With Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus the 2.5 remix at $39.99, you have Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue that is releasing at $49.99. Then you have Kingdom Hearts 3 plus Remind that is releasing once again at $49.99. And lastly, you have a full package which is called the Kingdom Hearts Integrum Masterpiece, which basically gives you all of this together at $89.99. Now, I can already hear some of you out there, you're going to be saying that if you get the full package, you're getting 10 games for $89.99. The only thing that I would respond to that is, number one, do not forget these are cloud versions of the games. These are also games that have extremely lengthy storylines, meaning that you're going to have to have a constant connection for quite a few hours to finish any which one of these entries. But not only that, for a cloud version of a game, you always have to know that one day these servers will be shut down. What that means is that if you pay $90, there is a moment in time where you will no longer have access to these games. And these aren't like digital purchases that as long as you have them on your memory card, they will still function generally. Once these servers are shut down, you will no longer have access to the games. Do I think this is going to happen in 6 months to a year? Obviously not. But maybe 5 years down the road, maybe 10 years down the road, there will come a moment where these games will no longer function on your Nintendo Switch. And if you paid $90 for them, you can be left with a bad taste in your mouth. But overall, I am super happy that the Kingdom Hearts series will finally be available on the Switch. However, I was hoping for some better pricing, and obviously, I would have really liked to see at least the earlier entries receive a full digital release and not a cloud version. But if you're excited and you want to be picking them up, make sure to have February 10th marked down on your calendar. Now next, we're going to be talking about another game that finally received a solid release date. However, this one is much more of a niche title, and that is Pocky Rocky Reshrined that is finally going to be releasing on PS4 and the Nintendo Switch on April 21st. Now, if you're totally unfamiliar with the Pocky Rocky series, they're most known for the entries that came out on the Super Nintendo. However, there was an entry follow-up that came out on the Game Boy Advance, and it is now pretty much considered a jewel on that system. Now, the general gameplay here can be best described as a top-down action title, where your basic concept is to blast your way through the stages, shooting at everything that comes on the screen. However, what I think most people loved this series the most about was the local 2-player co-op, where each person could pick up a controller and control a character. And you know what? This will be supported for the Switch version, still supporting 2-player local co-op, but not only that, rather than only being able to play as the 2 title characters, this time you will have up to 5 playable characters. Now, as I said earlier, this might be more of a niche title, but I'm letting you all know I have definitely marked down my calendar for April 21st for the release of this game. Now next, we're going to jump into one of the bigger stories, starting with the NFT stuff and more specifically the Konami Memorial Sale that just happened over the last few days. Now, if you're unfamiliar, Konami basically put out some digital tokens out there that were specific artwork regarding the anniversary of Castlevania. And not knowing how these NFTs were going to be received or if this sale was going to be a success, well, you know what? The gaming industry was shocked, and one of these pieces of artwork actually sold for up to $26,000 US, and overall, Konami raked in up to $162,000 for the sale of their NFTs for the Konami Memorial Sale. So if we were hoping that this event would unfortunately not succeed so that other companies wouldn't jump on board the NFT train, well, you know what? Unfortunately, this sale pretty much, I think, could be considered a success, especially that these digital artworks probably really didn't cost Konami anything and they raked in $162,000. Now, personally, my whole position on the NFT thing is a little bit of a shared bag. And I'll be totally honest with you, the use of NFTs like this for one-time collectible items, I actually don't have a huge problem with, especially when they're being offered by the owners of said properties. Where and I think a lot of gamers draw the line is when they are actually connected to in-game items that companies will try obviously to sell to us for a higher premium. But when they're side-noted memorabilia, like in this sale, like I said, if someone's willing to pay the price, let them have this digital artwork. Where, however, I would like to see effort made, even if we remain with just these digital artworks, is obviously since this is based around cryptocurrency, that is a very power-hungry system, and if we just want a planet and a world that is healthy, obviously we're going to have to find a way to maybe back these NFTs a different way that will not hurt the environment as harshly. Unfortunately, I do think that if you were against the whole NFT situation, with the success of this small sale, I do think we're going to be seeing other companies jumping on board. And as I said earlier, in my personal position, as long as it stays out of the in-game items, I have no issues with it because it will not affect my personal gaming experience. However, obviously, companies are going to be trying to sell in-game items. That is where I really think it's important that as gamers, if you do not want to support that, you just do not buy those NFT supported items. However, next, we're going to shift over to the other part of the NFT coverage that I wanted to talk about, and this one, unfortunately, is a definitely negative use of this technology, and I would say really needs to be stopped as soon as possible. And that is the fact that there are people out there trying to sell the likeness of other individuals as NFTs. More specifically, the ones I wanted to take a look at were some bigger YouTube channels. And this is where I am totally against this. You cannot sell the likeness of another individual, whether you plaster it on a background, a playing card, whether you're using their channel logo or their face, without express consent from that individual. Hopefully, the sale of these items will be shut down pretty quickly. However, if they become too prominent, it might be a losing battle. So just hopefully, if you come across any of these, you just will not be purchasing these items and not supporting the people that are trying to use the likeness and work of other individuals to create NFTs. And now, next, we're moving on to our biggest story of the day, and that is the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Xbox. Now, yes, you heard that right. Activision Blizzard has been acquired by Microsoft. So that means that basically they now own the IPs of some of the biggest franchises in the gaming world. Just to mention a few, Overwatch, Diablo, Call of Duty, all these franchises are now property of Microsoft. However, let's not forget, there are also some slightly smaller franchises that still have a huge place currently on the Nintendo Switch, such as the Crash Bandicoot series, the Spyro series, and even, let's not forget, Tony Hawk. Now, obviously, with all the PR nightmares that have hit lately Blizzard and Activision, if we're talking from a PR standpoint, I think this is a very good move. Number one, Microsoft probably managed to purchase them for much less than before these PR nightmares happened. However, at the same time, it will allow these companies to finally clean house. Because I think a company like Microsoft doesn't have a reputation to be involved in these type of activities, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to come in and make sure that the new individuals in charge will not support that type of environment. However, from the gamer perspective, that's where things will not necessarily all be good news, because obviously on the Nintendo Switch, we've seen over the last few years that Microsoft and Nintendo have come to quite a few agreements on different IPs. So hopefully a lot of those properties will nonetheless still find a home on the Nintendo Switch. I'm hoping that if ever we get another Crash entry, that it comes to the Nintendo Switch. If ever Overwatch 2 is portable to the Switch, I hope we get that. And every other franchise that is under the whole Activision Blizzard umbrella, I really hope that we still manage to get them on the Nintendo Switch. I do think, however, that with the relationship between Microsoft and Xbox, a lot of those franchises that already have a home will probably continue to release on the Nintendo Switch. However, if we turn over to the bigger franchises, those that don't necessarily currently have a home on the Nintendo Switch, let's just talk Call of Duty for a second. We might finally see the next release of Call of Duty be a Microsoft exclusive. If there is one group of gamers, however, who might be very seriously negatively affected, it is the owners of Sony PlayStations, because obviously Microsoft has been looking for years to get the upper hand on Sony, and this acquisition might finally give them that. Now obviously, maybe due to sales, Microsoft will still want to publish franchises like Call of Duty on the PlayStation, even though it has become a Microsoft property. However, at the same time, I'm expecting at least timed exclusives. Do not expect these games to be available to Sony players on day one. Now, I could be right, I could be wrong on this. Obviously, time will tell. But as I said earlier, I do think that this acquisition will definitely rock the gaming world and will affect the release of a lot of future games. So there we have it. That was it for the first edition of Maple Syrup News. So let me know how you're liking this series. Is this something you want to see come up on a more regular basis, or is this something that is perfectly fine at just 1 or 2 editions a week? Also, just to let you all know, the visual format of the whole video might be changing from time to time, trying to see what works best. However, I do think that for a little while now, I want to use the physical studio because I really don't get a chance to use it in most of my other content. But anyway, on the way out, if you did like the content, the best way to let me know is to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and hit that notification bell so you know when all my future content comes out. And as usual, I hope I'll see all of you in my next video.